We have grown men crying about the age of consent being 18. We hear y'all. We finally get to see these men for who they really is. They crying because they can't be with girls under 18 in Somalia, G. I'm disgusted. I am disgusted.
Fucking blood that nigga wins, bro. Fucking blood that nigga.
Girl is about to get married because the consent in Iraq for little girls has just dropped to 9 years old. 9. Let that sink in.
You know what's super interesting? As a queer person, if I heard that across the country we were changing the age of consent to 21, so not even 18, legal adult 21. If I heard that, I'd be like, okay, whatever, who cares? You know, I'm not losing anything from that. But I fucking bet you, there would be men well over 18, well over 21, who would argue and be up in arms because what are you talking about? No, you can't take away my teens. No.
Now this is crazy. In the Philippines today, they have just raised the minimum age of sexual consent from 12 years old to 16 to protect children against abuse and exploitation. Now I had no idea that the age of consent even went that low, so I googled which countries have the highest and lowest age of consent around the world. Now the highest age of consent in the world is 21 in Bahrain, which if you didn't know is a Middle Eastern country next to Qatar. The second highest age of consent is 20 years old in South Korea, while the majority of other countries seem to have an age of consent between 16 and 18. Now, the youngest age of consent is 11 years old in Nigeria. The second lowest age of consent is 12 in Angola, obviously previously the Philippines, and then 13 years old in Burkina Faso, Comoros, Niger, and Japan.
If the age of consent was younger, men would date children. When I was 19, I dated a guy who was 29. It has been 8 years and I am still not 29. He owned his own home. He was a lawyer. And I had only been able to legally drink for 6 months. I hadn't been an adult long enough. I had never voted. I kept telling my friends he likes me because he thinks I'm so mature. No, I wasn't. In hindsight, he said to me like, oh, I love how youthful you are. I love how naive you are. Ultimately, I ended it because the age gap made me uncomfortable. And this man called me and begged me not to dump him. If the age of consent was lower, men would date children.
I think a 12-year-old should be able to get a tattoo.
I'm gonna say no.
Probably not.
No. It's probably too young to make decisions.
It's a pretty permanent decision.
They can't make the decision for themselves yet. Something permanent on their body.
Do you think a 12-year-old should be able to consent to puberty blockers?
Yes.
Yes.
And I understand how that sounds really hypocritical.
Yes, it's a permanent change on their body, but I think that at that point in their life, they probably know who they are. who they want to be.
And you think so at 12 years old?
Yes.
Why don't we lower the age of consent by 1 every year?
Once you get to like 18, they stop being attractive, really. 20, 25, that's my demographic.
2020, people born this year are attracted to what? Like people who are born.
It's easier to groom if they're 0. It's easier to groom them if they're 0. Start fresh, right?
I think you're being honest. I don't think you're manipulating right now.
In life for 400, please.
In common law, the age of this, signaling adulthood, is presumed to be 14 in boys and 12 in girls.
Tom, what is the age of consent?
Right to jail, right away.
Seen a couple people on my For You page like saying that we should raise the age of consent, and you know, I'm not even gonna like really say anything too much about that, but what is really getting me is just like the blatant infantilization of like young adults. I think we forgot the term young adults, young people coming into adulthood, young people who are adults, young adults. Now I can see where this infantilization of like 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds is coming from, because recently we've been calling out older men for dating younger women more. I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, why would a 50-year-old want to be like a 20-year-old or like an 18-year-old? You know, like rightfully so, those are two very big different stages of life. But within the quest to, you know, rightfully call out these weird men, we have then infantilized these young adults, people who are in higher education, people with rent, people with bills to pay, people with credits, people with debts, you know, young adults. And it's gotten so bad, it's gotten to the point where I've seen people calling 20-year-olds children. And not even in a playful, oh, you're just a kid, like, oh, you're young type way. No, literally saying that 20 is still a child. We need to bring back the term young adult. Do you know everything at 18, 19, 20? No. But that is when you are starting to learn everything. That is when you are starting. And I think this also goes hand in hand with like the preteen phase going out of style. Because I think people are forgetting about like the different stages of life, like where you like slowly go upwards towards adulthood. And there's just been like a hard line drawn at like childhood, and then you're an adult. And that line is very arbitrary depending on the situation. Also, I've been seeing people say we should raise the age of consent or like raise the age of voting or drinking to 25. Hey, no, we should not. And they're saying this because they think that, oh, that's when like the frontal lobe develops. That's armchair psychology. That's pop medicine. That's not real, y'all.
1 in 6 men admit to sexual feelings for children. So is paedophilia increasing? 15% of Australian men aged over 18 recently surveyed said that they had sexual feelings for a child or teen younger than 18 years old. Now, I don't know what the age of consent is in Australia. Let me just search that so we can find out. Okay, so the age of consent in Australia, Google is telling me that it's 16 or 17 years old, depending on different states and territories within the country. So here in England, where I live, we're 16. In America, it's 18. I'm so interested to understand who came up with these ages and why are we all different?
This is fucking disgusting. This is disgraceful. If you fail to realize that this is a real issue and
Republican Senator James Lankford was asked under oath if he believed 13-year-old girls could consent to sexual activity, and he said, quote, "Yes, I think they can." A newly released deposition from 2010 reveals that Lankford held this belief while he was managing youth programming at a Baptist church camp. In his state of Oklahoma, the legal age of consent is 16. While there is an exception for 2 minors between the ages of 14 and 17, there is no provision under which a 13-year-old can ever give consent. Republicans are constantly pointing the finger at LGBTQ folks for supposedly grooming children, yet they're suspiciously quiet about this.
Age of consent. This one is a much debated topic in Japan today, but the legal age of consent is 13 years old in Japan, and one of the lowest in the world. Age of consent referring to the minimum age at which a person is considered to be capable of giving consent to sexual acts. In fact, this has been part of the Japan Penal Code since 1907, more than 100 years without change. Interestingly, most prefectures in Japan have statutes and local ordinances that raise the effective age to between 16 and 18 years old, while at the same time leaving some gray area for specific cases. At the end of the day though, the national age of consent in Japan is 13 years old.
So 14 is going to be the new age for people to get married now. That is what the administration is trying to push for. And I have yet to see one video of a single man having any outrage toward this, because this is what they want, okay? This is what they want. Anytime there's ever something in the news about like how it's been like an 18-year-old girl with like a 25-year-old man or like a 30-year-old man, men's first rebuttal is to say she's an adult. Based off of what marker? Oh yeah, that's right, the law. They always say it's legal, so she's an adult. And I always would tell men, I would say, if your basis of legality is based off of what the law is telling you what's an adult, that means that if they decide to say, well, the age of consent is 13, then you'll go on ahead and you'll do whatever it is that you want to do with a 13-year-old. And men will say all the time, that's not true, it's not the same. And then I try to get them to explain to me how it's not the same. They have no basis of their argument. They have no talking points to tell me, okay, if you know that 18 is right, but yet you know 13 is wrong, how do you know that 18 is right if you know 13 is wrong? If you're basing it off of it being legal. If they make 13 the legal age, and yet you're using 18 being the legal age because it's allowed and it's legal, that means that they can set the age for any age that they want to, and you're going ahead and do it because it's legal. This is another reason why I am deciding to stay child fucking free. Okay, they see what's happening. They see what's happening. By 2030, 45% of women ages, I believe, 25 to 40 are going to be single and child-free. They have to go younger to be able to repopulate. They have to go younger to be able to do anything. And guess what? They're actually going to do this through an insidious way. What they're going to do is they're going to strip resources away from women. That way the children that you do have can't be provided for. And then what's going to happen is that they are then going to give men probably some type of package, some type of way to be able to facilitate resources. And then what's going to happen is that your child is going to then be given to said man. And said man is going to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants to do with said 14-year-old that now has the ability to be able to get married and in most cases even get pregnant by someone that could be twice her age. This is a real reality, and I still don't understand why there are people that are giving birth. Because this is essentially what you're signing your child up for. Essentially, this is what it's going to be, because they can't go after older women. They can't force older women to have children at this point. They understand it's not going to work. They have to go younger. Please, y'all, please wake up, all right? Please understand what is happening. Please get community. Please get around with other women and, you know, seek refuge, seek community, seek support with other women because, yeah, at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever it is that they see fit to get their need met.
So this is disturbing and will blow your mind. Did you know that it wasn't illegal to own CP or CSAM in Japan until the year 2014? That's right, until the year 2014, anybody could own CP or CSAM in Japan with no legal consequences. I find that really hard to believe, but it is true. Look it up. And did you also know that Japan just raised the age of consent last year from 13 to 16? Now, these are definitely steps in the right direction, not the adequate steps, I would imagine. But something really disturbing is that there's no law in place in Japan to prevent people from drawing CP, CSAM, and selling it. A recent study that was done showed that 30 to 40% of manga comics in Japan contain sexual undertones with characters that are underage. And like I just said, this could be like a joke or it could be full-on graphic drawn content. And there are no laws making that illegal in Japan. I mean, I find that incredibly hard to believe. Here in America, you would be put in prison for a long time for having something like that in your possession. But in Japan, it is still completely legal and it hasn't been outlawed. Now, I don't understand why they waited till 2014 to finally pass a law that would put pedophiles in prison. But as you can imagine, the sentences that these people are getting over there are literally nothing. Like, I've read stories of people that were found with hundreds, thousands of images and videos on their computers and hard drives, and they were sentenced to probation, asked to pay like a $500 fee. But this is a major issue, and I felt like people should know about that because when I read that, I was just disturbed. If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and pedophile rings, listen to my podcast, The Conspiracy Files, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can subscribe to my channel. And let me tell you, this video, you should watch this. It is very enlightening.
The age of consent should be 18 in every single country. It should be 18 all around the world. Not 12, not 13, not 14.
18.
When they're adults. Because once you drop it lower, it gives room for degenerate people to be like,
well, you know, she's in the legal age of consent even though she's 12.
Like, are we fucking for real right now? Guys, like, this doesn't make sense. And let's be fucking honest. We literally all know that when you're 13, you didn't even have the mind to think about what you want to be in life. You didn't even know what anything is. Like, you don't know nothing about the world.
Yet you're telling me the government puts 13 as the age of consent?
Some countries put 12. Like, I mean, this is fucking crazy, bro.